right now. We have Labid, who is the brains behind this Zoom webinar, and an Altadenian who is seemingly involved in every single process of rebuilding Altadena. So shout out to Labid. Thank you. We have Io, who has been the clearest communicator about all of this. I have a question about something, and I check Io's Instagram page first to see what the hell I'm supposed to do. And then we have Cynthia, from the Foothill Catalog, who um, is here to tell us all about the project, the Foothill Catalog, and what I think is the best idea I've heard for how to build back Altadena quickly, cost effectively, and of course, beautifully. Um, so I don't know. I think we could just get started at this point, right? People will trickle in and they can catch up. Cool. So my name is Callum Hanlon. I live in Altadena. I lived at 439 East Poppy Fields Drive, with my wife, my 3-year-old daughter, my 1-year-old son, our 2 dogs, and we lost our home along with every other home on our block in the Eaton Canyon fires. Um, and I think my coping mechanism, besides crying, and starting to do nicotine lozenges again, I'd been off them for a little while. My coping mechanism was immediately like, all right, well, how do we solve the problems, right? How do we figure out how to get back quickly? And during when the fire happened, we were actually halfway through converting our pre-existing garage into an ADU because my wife and I have aging parents that we wanted to be able to come out and visit for longer periods of time so they could be around the grandkids and all that. And I thought, hey, we have this 17 by 17 garage. We're going to add a kitchenette and a little bathroom. It'll be quick, easy, cheap. And a year later, when we broke ground, I found out that it was neither quick, easy, or cheap. And so I started thinking about when once the debris is cleared and everybody's given the go ahead to go back, I just started thinking about the logistics of, well, how the hell is everybody going to build back? Because getting an architect, getting a contractor, figuring out how to design the home that you want can be a long, painstaking, expensive process. And then you have to keep sending iterations of those plans to the county and get revisions and X, Y, and Z. Uh, and I just started thinking like there's got to be a way, right, for people to come together and create some standardized plans that hopefully the county could become familiar with. And basically, as people are able to share those plans, they're able to also share insights into the cost of construction, right? Because people are going to be coming out of the woodwork. I'm sure if you've opened Instagram in the last month, you've been served ads about joining a class action lawsuit. You've been served ads about how some construction company can't wait to help you rebuild with no thoughts about, discounts or what sort of services they're offering other than taking your money to build your house. Um, but I started sort of socializing this idea of like, there's got to be a way to have a shared set of plans that people could use if they wanted to opt in to rebuild their homes in Altadena. And I just started asking around, asking around. Someone pointed me in the direction of the Foothill Catalog, which is a group started by Cynthia and her partner Alex, who is not here today. Um, and basically, the idea that I had was the idea that is the idea behind their project, and they're actually smart and they know how to do this stuff, and they're licensed architects who know how to design a home and all that. So it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. People who actually know how to do this are working on this already. And when I went to speak with them, I found out that they weren't soliciting money from anybody, that this was a nonprofit, and that they lived just blocks away from the fire. Once I met them and started talking to them, I just became an evangelist immediately and started telling everybody, "Oh my God, this is this amazing, amazing project." And whether they liked it or not, I have forced myself onto Cynthia and Alex, in just trying to make this thing a reality as much as possible. So um, yeah, I love this plan exactly for what I just said. It's a nonprofit. It's Altadena locals doing Altadena specific design. There will be contractors on board advising on pricing so that nobody's getting price gouged, and it can hopefully simplify the bidding process. And it saves you a lot of money because the design process can be about a tenth of your construction budget. Um, and hopefully this expedites things. And Yeah, that's it. I'll throw it to everybody else. Let me just say that this conversation, Cynthia's going to present for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we have this Q&A function here where you can basically ask questions. And if you see a question that you want to ask rather than re-asking it, our request is that you do the upvote, which I believe is like clicking on the thumb. And that just will sort of raise the most popular questions to the top, and we'll just answer them in terms of what people want to know the most. And I just also wanted to mention that Colleen Shelby from the LA Times is on this call. So, she's if she wants to reach out or speak to anyone, she'll do that. But just wanted to let everyone know just to make sure they don't feel duped or anything. And we appreciate her for being here. So I'd love to throw to Labid to just talk for a couple minutes before we get into it.
Thanks, Cal. And thanks for all of you guys who are attending. Thanks, IO. And obviously, Cynthia, thank you and Alex for putting the Foothill Catalog together and through Cal and ourselves and the time we spent. We love your effort, your initiative, your organization, and your professionalism in how you've organized. So a lot of gratitude and thank you for being a beacon in this category of how do we begin and understand and appreciate the rebuilding process for the homes. And what we love truly about your effort and your mission is that you are focused across the board for the homeowners who have been here for generations, in addition to the new homeowners like myself and Cal. I'm very fortunate and blessed that we live in the southeast corridor of Altadena by Eaton Canyon. Although we were the first to evacuate, we somehow miraculously survived. And whether it's guilt or my background in community activism, and being a part of the PTA board for Altadena Arts Magnet, which is the center of the west side of Altadena. I've spent the last month and now week just figuring out all the ways that I can be of service to the community in every aspect of what that means. And this is why we're here today. This is why we're doing other seminars, webinars, Zooms, and meeting with everybody from the community to elected officials and just figuring out how we can be the centralized support system for all of us who are suffering, but all of us who are survivors and are ready to fight to build back a better Altadena. A tiny bit about myself. I work in media. I am actually at the intersection of sort of media and impact in Hollywood, and that's been the last 25 years of my life. I started as a community organizer and activist, and this effort, this initiative is just a part of my DNA, and so I'm just doing everything that I can to be of service, and I'm grateful for um, how full of spirit and love our community is and why we're here. And as I mentioned, I'm on the PTA board of Altadena Arts. I was also recently brought into an organization of individuals who are focused on just being there in support for Eaton fire survivors. And I pass the mic to Io. As many of you guys know, and as Cal said earlier, he has been one of the most clear, concise communicators for as a resource and to sort of sift through the noise, also a member of the community. And so we're grateful to have you, Io. Thank you.
Thanks, Abid. I'll keep it very brief. I'm IO, yeah, I lost my home in Altadena. I lost rental property in Altadena, both of which I built with my hands. And therefore did what I've done forever and always, which is when something's helpful to me, I've gotten on the internet and shared it. And that became uh, an Instagram account that a lot of you have had eyes on in the last month, which is an odd experience. But I am the co-founder of Postfire LA, which is a centralized survivors network. We exist to funnel information and resources to survivors so that they don't have to go sifting through it all themselves. And our big goal is to become a centralized voice for them as a unified body as things go on so that people can feel that they're being heard as big decisions are being made about the future of Altadena. So that's an extreme simplification of what Postfire is working on. We're also fulfilling urgent needs, etc. If you know somebody who was affected by the fires, encourage them to go to postfirela.org and fill out a survivors network form and join it's a completely free network. And we will connect them with information and resources. I am here because I super believe in what Cynthia and Alex are doing. I think it's essential, and I like that they are a nonprofit. As Cal mentioned, a lot of people are not, and they're being really sneaky about it right now. So I think that having plans for people for whom the architectural process is either fiscally out of reach or completely overwhelming and unmanageable is a really beautiful, old school populist way of getting beautiful homes to everyone. So I'm super in support of this. I'm only going to be able to be here for a little while, but I'm really happy to be here and hear Cynthia speak. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, should I just go ahead and get started? All good? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Labid and Cal and Io, it's been so amazing to getting to know you guys over the past couple weeks. And thank you for your support. It really means so much to us to have the support of the community behind this idea because ultimately, this is the intent of this is that it's very community driven. And so, this is for you, but it's also by you. And that's kind of at the core of what we're doing. So I'll just start by saying to everyone, thanks for coming. I know that there's multiple webinars going on today. You're probably webinared out over the past few weeks. I know it's a lot of information to process. So I will try to make this as valuable as possible for you in the time that we have together. And I know you're here to hear what I have to say, but also just want to really reiterate that I'm here to hear what you have to say, because like I said, the 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 whole point of all of this is that it's driven by the community and your needs and your hopes as you look to rebuild. So that being said, a little bit about me. My name's Cynthia, and as Cal and Labid mentioned, my partner Alex, myself, and a few of our colleagues and peers, we started the Foothill Catalog Foundation, and I am a local architect. I live technically in Pasadena, but just one block south of Altadena, um, right by Lincoln and Montana, near John Muir High School. So we were kind of on the periphery of the impacted area, and so we've been in our house for about 5 years, so relatively new to the community, but in that time, it's really, really felt like home. And I personally love being by the mountains and the small town feel and the people. It's just been a really wonderful experience to be a part of this community. And so, of course, when all of this happened, um, we felt in this aftermath of collective grieving. Thankfully, our home was okay. We were about 2 blocks east of us is kind of where we lost some homes on our street. But thinking about, how we can retain the people and the place that makes Altadena so special. We kind of realized immediately that there was a risk of losing not only the people who had been there for multi generations, with homes passed down through families, but also the architectural heritage and the character and the identity of the area is also so special. So taking that all into account, we felt, as architects, what can we provide as a resource to this community to not only retain the people and the diversity of the people, but also the diversity of the architecture through the architectural styles. So, and another big thing for us is our passion for the regional vernacular. So really thinking about what makes a place special. So if you think about, some of your favorite places in the world, like, thinking about what about it makes it special. And a lot of times it's the built environment and the way the built environment makes you feel and how it looks. And I think in our case in the Foothill community, we had that and we still do. And so really fighting to retain that is a cause that we felt was worthwhile. And so that's really kind of the two reasons why we began the Foothill Catalog Foundation when this all kind of went down. So really quickly, as an overview, what is the Foothill Catalog Foundation? It's a nonprofit organization, as was mentioned, and the primary mission of the foundation is to retain the people and the place that was lost through the through a collection of pre-approved, pre-designed homes that essentially will help lower the bar of rebuilding for a lot of people because, like was mentioned, it's typically a pretty long process to go through, finding an architect, going through the design process, all the back and forth, and some people will be able to do that, but a lot of people won't. It might be that the insurance isn't there, or you just don't have the emotional bandwidth to kind of go through that. And so that's kind of the problem that we're trying to solve with this collection of designs. And this would be aggregated from architects across the city. So basically, we would be reaching out to our network of designers that, there's so much energy out in the design profession right now. People really want to help, but they might not know how. And so the the beauty of this catalog model is that it's very tangible. It's something that we can all visualize the end product, and we can all work towards it together. So the foundation is not, providing architectural services. We're not doing the designs necessarily, but we are the aggregator of all this goodwill that's out there, and all the energy around this. And the ultimate goal is to have a collection of pre-approved, pre-priced designs that are designed to take the onus off of the homeowner, again, who might not have the resources or the means to go through a traditional rebuild. And so there's a lot of things that go into this, but one of them, like was mentioned, is keeping in the architectural style of Altadena as we know and we love it. Really honoring the heritage of the area, and making sure that we're still capturing the spirit. And a lot of that has to do with variety, which is another reason why the catalog model came to mind, because initially when the catalog homes were being built back in the early 1900s, that was kind of the whole point, right? Was for affordable housing, but also for variety and for giving people the choice, to be able to choose what type of home they'd like to live in. So that's kind of, it's kind of capturing that spirit of the catalog and modernizing it today with, of course, the knowledge that we have with sustainable design, with resiliency and fire hardening, being able to incorporate all of these things in a tangible resource is the ultimate goal here. And so all of this we envision this all will happen through the collaboration and partnerships between architects and engineers and builders from across the city, working with public officials and larger organizations as partnerships. And of course, like I said in the very beginning, the community would be the driving force behind all of this. And so just making sure every step of the way that this is a resource that is the most helpful for you as you look to as we look to rebuild our community together. Um, so, like I said, I think what makes this project a little different and special to me is that it's not one person or one organization saying, I can help you, through my services or whatever. It's a compilation, it's a collective of all of these people coming together to contribute their strengths and their skills and their knowledge towards this one resource. Um, and it's a real resource. It's something that, like I said, you can really imagine. I have, a catalog of books right here, or homes right here, right? And it's like you can imagine really visually flipping through a product like this and picking out a home. And so that's something that's, I think, very powerful at this moment, when there's so many, thoughts and ideas out there. And, I think generally, everyone wants to help, but it's very powerful to have a tangible, um, visual solution that people can work towards. So that's kind of our goal. And the it really just comes down to being able to give people a choice to stay. Whether or not you use the catalog program, or you go the custom route, or you decide that you do need to ultimately sell. I think that's a personal decision. But our goal at the foundation is to create this resource so that as many people as possible have the choice to stay if they want to. Because I think what we're finding at the moment is a lot of people might feel like they don't have a choice, for various reasons. And so, again, that's kind of, I've said a lot of things, but our ultimate goal really is to provide this resource, so that people can choose to stay, and then if they would like to participate in the program, they can also choose what type of home they'd like to live in too. Um, so I can talk a lot more about the process and how we envision things going down during the Q&A. Um, but that's kind of the gist of it. And what we've accomplished so far, it's been about almost a month, a little over 3 weeks, since this organization was officially established. And we started with a small group of volunteers, and now we're kind of thinking about how to establish a more robust organization that has the manpower and the resources to really make an impact here. And so that's something we're also working on. Um, it's been a lot of outreach over the past few weeks, not only to the community, to community members, but also to our design community, making sure that people know what this is, and so that they're ready to contribute when the time comes. Meeting with prefab and modular construction companies for their expertise on that end, because there's certainly technologies and ways that we can incorporate what they do into making designs more affordable and repeatable, which will essentially drive down costs. And also some larger organizations like Habitat for Humanity, they obviously have the expertise in how to build
Well,
affordably, and at scale. And so really learning from organizations like that has also been a priority for us. Um, and then of course talking
and they're in
to
the
to the
audience today.
oh, are they? Okay,
There
well,
have that community in the audience. We're very lucky.
oh, oh, amazing.
Cynthia, I think I'd love to. There's a ton of questions that are being asked that I think I would
Okay.
love to. Cal, if you could,
Yeah.
jump in and sort of feel some of these questions. And
Yep.
Cynthia, look, you guys are doing work and amazing community here, and there is, some direct questions that I think, Cynthia, you are
Yes,
prepared to
let's
answer
let's
because,
do the
again, we're here
questions.
for a reason. We want to be able to allow the audience to ask.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. And just one additional comment that I wanted to share, which is like, look, you can go the custom architecture route and design exactly the perfect home that you want. But what I was saying to Cynthia and Alex is that my guess is that somewhere in the catalog, if I can't find the exact perfect 100%, this is everything I need house, I can find one that's 85 or 90% of exactly what I need. And if I can get that done a year earlier and for $100,000 less to me, sign me up. And the other thing is, I loved our house. Were there a lot of things wrong with it? For sure. if I could redesign it perfectly the way that I wanted it to be, would I do that? Sure. But we loved our house with all the little, weird things about it and the imperfections and stuff. So I think that's just something to keep in mind um, when you're thinking about this. So we'll get to the questions now. So I don't know if they're actually being upvoted or not, so I'm just going to answer them in the order that I have them right now. Cynthia, the first question is, how many plans are you aiming to have available? Are you hoping to have several for each style of home?
Yes, several for each style of home. And so the way that we kind of envision the building out of the catalog is first analysis of the lot types that existed and what was lost basically. So we would do a pretty in-depth urban analysis on the lot types, the lot sizes, what used to be there, kind of thinking again about that like to like construction. So what we in ultimately what you end up with is a bell curve of home types based on the lot types that were there before. And we can kind of focus on the top of the bell curve, which is going to be most applicable for people. And so we would start there. Usually that means 3 bed, 2 bath, around 1,500 square feet. That's a pretty typical home in the area. And so we'd start there and then, start to work our way down to capture, the variety of home types. And yes, so there would be a variety of sizes and also a variety of styles as well. I can't say how many, but the idea is as many as we can get participation from architects. And like I said, there are a lot of people who are wanting to help and contribute. So we hope that it would be a pretty robust collection of designs.
And Cynthia, just knowing that people are wanting to know how to help, what are the best ways? What kind of help are you guys looking for right now for the Foothill Catalog specifically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we obviously have as architects, we have our network of design professionals that we've reached out to and starting to organize that. At the same time, it's building out an organization, like I mentioned, and making sure it's robust enough to take on this project. And so if anyone has any experience with kind of building an organization, I think and the operation side of things, that's something that we could definitely use help on. And in the future, very near future, we hope to host some events. And so, having help with some of that organizing as well, would be really great. And I guess one more thing while we're on how people can help, we'd love to create a group of community members, kind of like a committee, that could maybe help drive this initiative. So, if that's something you're interested in, really being a part of this from a leadership standpoint, we'd love to have a committee of community members that kind of represent the voice um, of the community. And so that's also something to think about too.
Amazing. Okay, next question. There's a group called Jane's Village Rebuild. Would the Foothill Catalog be able to collaborate with them?
Yes, so we've actually had a meeting with the Janes Village Rebuild group. It was a really nice meeting. I was, thinking it's so wonderful how this community, specific area, obviously very historically significant, has kind of banded together to ensure that, everyone will be able to rebuild as much as possible. And so we had a really nice chat and I think how the catalog could help them is definitely having some Jane's Village home types included for sure, and reaching out, sharing resources, making sure that these designs are true to the spirit of this community. And so we're definitely planning on continuing the conversation with them. And yeah, it was a really nice chat that we had. So definitely looking to contribute or collaborate in the future.
Amazing. Okay, next question. What is the price range of these pre-approved designs?
Yes, good question. So pricing wise, cost wise, we can't give a concrete cost yet because, that wouldn't come until the designs are kind of in production. And we also need to start we'd have to bring on builders and material suppliers to kind of help with that. But that is definitely part of the project, is making sure that we can provide that information to the homeowner, because that's what also another thing that was really great about the initial catalog homes is that you could flip through and you would see the elevation and the floor plan and a little description, and then it would have a price. And so that's very helpful, and it simplifies things a lot, especially in construction. As we know, it can be, very variable. Things can change as you kind of go through the process and the back and forth. And so having a little more predictability, I think is really valuable. And in terms of, industry standard of going through the traditional custom rebuild, in our area, we've been talking to some residential architects, and what we hear is about $650 a square foot is kind of the industry standard. It's not anything fancy, but that's probably what it's going to take. And so that can feel like a lot, I think, already. And so even though I can't give a concrete price on the plant on the cost of the plans, I guess I should say the plans will not have a cost. So the cost that's associated with the plans is the cost to actually construct the home, which I do not have a price for. But the idea is we would be bringing down the construction cost as much as possible through reducing the architect's fees, and producing efficient plans through a design build type of design process, which essentially means that the engineer and the contractors would be on board as early as possible so they can provide input. Because a lot of times architects, we're designers, but we don't necessarily have costs in mind. But builders and engineers are really the ones who know, if you design in this module, it can be, more efficient for these reasons. Or if you put the plumbing wall here, you can cut costs that way. And so having that input as early as possible, just as a general tip, is really helpful to help bring down costs. And then of course, with the catalog model, we'd be looking for repeatability and modularity, which can also inject cost savings, and then economy of scale. So if something gets built multiple times, then you can start to think about prefabricating and bulk ordering, which are all things that can chip away at that cost. And so again, while I can't give a specific cost for these homes, we're confident that given all of those factors, it will be a more affordable option.
Amazing. It's just so nice listening to somebody who has all the answers to all of this because,
Well,
yeah,
I was gonna say, I'm sorry if I don't have all the answers, because there are some things that are still, being figured out. But if that is the case, we'll definitely be taking notes, and we'll get back to all of you. But yes, I'm doing my best.
you're crushing it. Okay, next question. Will there be some passive design options?
Yeah, so the passive house is a that's a good question. So passive house, if you don't know, it's kind of it's a design metric, basically like LEED or WELL, which basically means that a design meets certain criteria to gain a passive house certification. And to be honest, passive house is extremely expensive. They're very, very rigorous. I fully support what they do, because they're rigorous for a reason. It's very sustainable building, the taking into account all of this knowledge we have on clean building. So I can't say that these designs would be passive house certified, because we are looking A big part of this is affordability. But that being said, there are ways to still incorporate sustainable design, without going all the way to passive house level. And that's something that we will definitely be looking into as we move forward with these designs. So hopefully that answers that question. But
I got to look up what passive house design is. So I'm just going to skip ahead to a question at the end, but I think we should answer this a couple times throughout this. Cynthia, what's your contact info for people who would like to volunteer for the Foothill Catalog?
yeah, so if you go on our website, which I think went out with the invite link, but it's just www.foothillcatalog.org. There's a contact us page, and you can reach us that way. And just you can just let me know what your strengths are, what your interests are, and we can go from there.
And we'll drop that in the chat too. Okay, back up to the order. What is the goal time frame to get these designs made and approved?
Yes. So time frame. Some of it is going to depend on the county's response and process, which is still in the works. But on our end, our goal is to have a collection of initial catalog homes ready by the time that the debris removal and the hazardous waste disposal and anything that needs to happen with the infrastructure that would need to happen first is complete. So that's our goal that we're working towards. And obviously in between, especially with the pre-approval part of this, there needs to be a more robust framework set into place, and we are working on that, having those conversations. But that's our goal. So yeah, it'll depend on kind of the county's timeline with figuring out exactly like what this framework means, and then it'll also going back to my point on creating a robust organization. It will depend on the resources that we're able to kind of receive as an organization to really get the manpower and the resources behind what we're trying to do because like I mentioned, this is a volunteer effort at the moment, but I think to really make an impact here, it'll have to become some people's full-time dedicated efforts. So, we are working on that as well. So those are kind of the two things that it'll depend on, but our goal is to have something ready by the time the debris and all of that is cleared.
And Cynthia, not to put you on the spot, but you mentioned maybe there's like an image or something of a home. Since we're
Yes.
talking about home designs, if you want to just give people a sneak peek of what you guys
Yeah,
have been
so in
working
the
on.
meantime, one of the things we've been working on is reaching out to some of our architecture contacts to develop some concept imagery. So, we can, show you what we're thinking. And I do have one that I can share. Let me figure out how to share. Okay, Labid, I might need to send you a request to share. Okay, I think that worked.
Allowed.
Thank you. Okay, just a second. Let me pull this up. Um,
This webinar is new to me as well. We're working through some kinks, but I think it's going okay. Cynthia,
no
doing
worries.
incredible. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully this works. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay. So, can you guys see my screen?
It looks beautiful.
Okay, so this is an example concept of, what we envision ultimately the catalog to be comprised of. And of course, behind this is going to be a set of construction documents. So it's going to be, this is very simplified, but essentially, kind of keeping with the ethos of the original catalog, just keeping it as simple as possible. This is the floor plan, this is the bedroom and bathroom count, this is the square footage. Here's a elevation or a perspective. And then, of course, what would really kind of take this to the next level is having an estimated construction cost. But this is essentially what we're working towards. with the construction documents behind it. And if you guys are curious, I pulled up a few kind of originals as well, if I can figure out how to change. Let's see. Okay, we'll just do it this way.
There's,
But
oh, I was just going to say it's so exciting to even see that image.
yeah, and we're hoping to have a lot more very soon. We have several people working on different styles too, so you can really see. But this is from the book I shared earlier. It's called 90 Houses of the 20s. And this is basically it. So it's it kind of gives you an idea of these are modest homes, right? But they're nice, and you can totally imagine kind of seeing these as you walk down the street. And they're appropriate. And these have little, I think these are the prices for the plans. But yeah, so these are kind of the things that we're looking at as we develop the framework of our modernized version, which of course would be a little different than this, but that's to kind of just give you an idea of what the original catalog homes looked like. Um, so yeah.
I can't wait to live in any one of those homes personally. And I
Yeah.
apologize if you hear crying children in the back of our very small apartment that we're in Glendale. Okay, so next question from Bree Lumsden. Hope I pronounced that correctly. You mentioned the plans would be pre-priced. Would this organization also potentially serve as a way to consolidate work with set of predetermined general contractors so we can potentially get bulk material discounts and better pricing on construction?
Yeah, so the idea is that, this would be as integrated as possible, because I think that there are cost savings associated to integrating. So, we would ultimately love to partner with, a group of general contractors, whether they're, local general contractors or larger organizations, you know, bringing in that group of resources, that then the homeowners can utilize when this kind of moves from the planning stage to the actual construction stage. And the idea is the foundation would help oversee things, and be there as a resource for you, as you kind of move through that process.
Awesome. A couple of these questions um, are sort of asking the same thing, so I'm just going to start to sort of consolidate some of them because I think we're going to try to wrap up in 15 minutes. But Dana Sledge asks, can we make modifications to the designs we find on the catalog?
So at the moment, we're kind of focused more on a true catalog model. I mean, I think we'd have to think about how to efficiently, make modifications, because it's hard to know where to draw the line, right? And so that's something we're still working on, figuring out. But yeah, I think we do want to be clear that this is not a custom home option. Um, but it's still going to be, a quality design and well built, and, all of the things that we talked about. But, a custom home is it's a different path. And so we want to make sure that that's clear. But I think, the solution that we're trying to provide is more for people who do not have the option to go down that custom path, or that start going down that path and then realize they can't do it. So having this as a backup is also something that we're keeping in mind too.
And Cynthia, just to elaborate a little bit, like people can customize finishes and stuff like
Oh,
that
yes,
interior,
yes.
right? So that,
Yes, this is more like the overall like plan and elevation. I think for interiors, that's something we're talking about too. A lot of things are still in development. But I think a pretty typical way that this happens is having finished packages. And so you'd almost have like a bronze, silver, and gold finish package, that you can choose from, to kind of, give some variety, but still keep it within the catalog uh style.
right. Okay, Morgan Whirlage has asked, according to someone at Public Works that worked on the ADU standard plans, it took many years for those plans to get through the process of getting pre-approval status. What would the timeline on this be? And are there any folks at the county that have heard about this and made it clear something like this will be viable?
Yes, that's a great question. So I think with the county, they are probably also still figuring out how exactly they're going to approach this. It's very unprecedented to have so many homes needing to go through plan check at the same time. And so I think they're also figuring out what their process and what their solution is going to be. Our hope is that, we can basically be a solution for them and say to them like, hey, this is something we can work on together. We have actually spoken to we've had meetings with the planning department, the building and safety department, and we have one tomorrow with regional planning, and so they do know about this idea, and those meetings have been very positive. So while they haven't, there's no stance or process yet on their end because again, I think they're still trying to figure it out. But you know, we feel confident that the conversation has been generally positive, and so I would anticipate that hopefully we can work together to come up with a framework for this that won't take years
And if
because
you,
nobody wants that, right? Not like they don't want that either. So, working together to come up with a solution.
yeah, and if you guys know people at the county, please send them in the direction of the Foothill Catalog. Okay, we have a question. Will the designs have fire resistance as a priority?
Yeah, so definitely, the short answer is yes. The California Building Code, which is, a requirement to build to in, 2025, is inherently more fireproof than the homes were, built 100 years ago. So that's like your baseline. Any home built in 2025 is going to be more fireproof than a home that was built in 1912. But on top of that, a big part of this is also, reaching out to insurance companies and making sure that do they have any requirements because, you know, we definitely want to make sure that these designs are, going to be insured at the back end. So, seeing if they have any additional requirements, and then besides that, there are definitely ways to incorporate fireproof design, whether it's through the detailing of the eaves or the materials that you choose. And there's a lot of experts on how to do that. So we would definitely be bringing them in as well to be a part of this conversation. Um, for sure.
Even some of the landscaping options,
Yes,
right?
landscaping too. So we have a couple landscape architects who have also reached out to us, and even though we're talking about plans and elevations, the landscaping is also a big part of this, and making sure that um, things are designed back in a more resilient way.
Okay, next question. They said, first off, thank you so much for your time and expertise. I agree. Is there a way to take advantage of these pre-approved architectural plans while still taking advantage of the like-for-like rebuilding stipulations?
Yes, so the like to like rebuilding, I think, I think it's a word you hear a lot, and it's kind of like, okay, what does that mean, really? And from our conversations that we've had, generally like to like means that, um, actually, you know what, I will share something I was reading earlier about this, so you guys can see on
And
here.
Cynthia, while you're looking for that, just a reminder, we got about 10, 15 more minutes. We can keep going, but I just want to be, I know everybody's been on these webinars,
Yes,
so
definitely.
trying to move
Yes.
quick.
So yeah, like really quick, this is available online. This is basically the county code, but it kind of lays out what does like to like replacement mean. And this is a lot of words, but to kind of simplify, it generally means bedroom and bathroom count and square footage and setbacks, and height limit. So they're not going to be necessarily saying that, you had a bungalow, so you have to rebuild a bungalow. It's going to be more like you had this amount of square footage within this setback area, and so that's what you kind of need to stay within. And of course, if you had a one-story home, you probably won't be able to build back a two-story home. So that's generally what like to like means, and of course you can access this online too and read a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Okay, Kagan Taylor has asked, how are we going to get contractors to price these designs this far in advance?
So the pricing would happen a little bit later on once the designs are developed. And so typically, when you go through a design bid build construction, um, design and construction type, what normally happens is, you work with the architect on a design, and then you take that design and you take it to contractors to bid, and you'll take it to 3 to 5 contractors, and then you pick one, and then they'll build it. In this case, we would be thinking about this more in a design build way, meaning the design and the build kind of happen like integrated in an integrated way. And so as the designs are happening, we would have the builders also giving their input. And that way we can kind of get a sense of how much the construction cost is going to be earlier on in the process. But that being said, that won't happen until we are in production of the designs, which will be a little bit further down the road.
Great answer. And just a reminder, we're going to go a little over if you have to drop off. We're recording this. If you have questions and you have to go, please reach out to Cynthia. And this is just the beginning, right? Originally this started off as an idea of like maybe 15 people meeting together to talk about this. And there was so much interest that it became a webinar with, 60 whatever people. So this is just the beginning. And thanks everybody for being here. Let's answer some more questions. I think you kind of answered this, but maybe worth revisiting, Cynthia. Do you have any sense of the savings that could be accomplished through this process? So maybe just touch on what the typical costs are for an architect in this process.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, kind of the industry standard for single family home construction, in our area, you're looking at around $650 a square foot average construction cost. Architects' fees can vary, but on average, you're probably looking, like Cal said, at about 10%. And so with the catalog program, you would be reducing, off the bat, the architecture part is, kind of built into to the catalog. And then, for all those reasons I listed earlier about, engaging the design or engaging the builder as early as possible, the engineers, material suppliers, using prefab and modularity as a technique to help bring down the cost, and then using economy of scale, so repeatability. All of those things would chip away at that number. And our goal is really to bridge the gap of, what you might be getting from insurance and what it's going to take to rebuild. Right now, it might be like this. And what we're trying to do is try to bridge that gap as much as possible. And that's, through through all of these ways, we can kind of chip down. And that's the intent.
Great question. Great answer. Okay, next question. What would be the reason an architect would participate in the catalog instead of having an individual client?
Yeah. So, as a member of the design community myself, I've seen firsthand how much people want to help. The thing that an architect can contribute is their knowledge and their skill set. And so, as an example, I'm on the board of the AIA Los Angeles, and we have formed what they're calling a wildfire task force to, really come together as community of architects and figure out how best we can serve the two communities, both Palisades and Eaton, in this recovery effort. And in the initial call, there were 900 people on that call. So these are architects and designers who, love their city and they want to help. And I think another reason, designers are generally, a lot of us are in this profession because not because of the money necessarily, but because we love to design. And so, the I think idea of contributing to something like this and, being able to um, essentially be like, I did this one, and it got built 15 times. I think that's a very compelling reason for, a lot of people. But again, I think, the main thing is that there's a lot of goodwill out there. A lot of people want to help, and architects have the skill set to contribute, and a lot of them are willing and eager to.
We have a question from Simon Ha, who has been very helpful as I've been asking questions about this whole process. So thank you, Simon. He says, I love what you're proposing. I'm definitely on board. My question is, how far into city approvals do you plan to take the individual plans?
Yes, so it depends on, how the framework ends up laying out with the county. But what we envision is that we would take the approval as far as possible as you can get it before a specific lot comes to mind. So typically, you have the plan check on the building, which has to do with the structure and the life safety and all the things that they'll be checking on the building. But then on the site specifically, you're looking at topography, the foundation, setbacks, those kinds of things, utility hookups. Those are all things that, in this model, what we envision is that the plans would go through pre-approval up until the point where you need to be doing site-specific approvals. And then from there, you would take those plans and then do a much quicker, approval process that's very specific to your site. So that's kind of the main idea with working, and that's what we will be proposing once we are able to really have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, we went through that with just our little 17 by 17 garage. I thought it would be so simple. Put the bathroom, the kitchenette, call it a day, but it was like figuring out, the sewage pipes have to have a certain grade to them so that gravity, pulls everything down or whatever, and finding where that connects specifically at our existing sewage connect and all that. So there's lots of, especially with Altadena where the properties are all a little bit different, right? That's the part that's going to have to be individualized.
Right.
That's my layman's terms. Okay. Kagan Taylor asks, will there be permit drawings or full CD sets? Is there a mechanism for assisting with construction administration?
Um, So the intent is that these would be permit sets, but also enough that, a contractor or a builder could take them and build them. So that's something that we will have to develop as a framework of, what the county is going to require for permit, and then what a builder needs to actually build. In terms of construction administration, I think that is something that we will need to flesh out a bit in terms of what is the architect's role after the plan is handed off. So that's something that we're still working on, and we'll definitely get back to all of you on that.
Awesome. Um, is the time saved from the A&E phase and permitting parts, the question's phrased a little. Is the time saved from the A&E phase and permitting parts? What kind of time saving could result from the construction phase?
Yeah, so, utilizing prefab and modular technology, especially, that can really, really cut down on construction costs. If you think about, being able to pre-cut lumber, thinking about it almost like an IKEA set, which is kind of, how the original catalog homes were, being able to assemble things, in factory and then bring them in on site, or utilizing some of the expertise of organizations like Habitat for Humanity, who have really, really they're the experts, right, at rebuilding affordably and quickly. So there's definitely ways to leverage all of those aspects to really bring down the not only the construction costs but also the time as well.
Great. I'm seeing some questions about ADUs and garages, so I'm just going to kind of combine them. Will there be an opportunity for inclusion of ADUs as part of the design? And the renderings don't show garages, but will that be a part of the catalog home design?
Yes, yes. So there definitely will be a variety. I think, an ADU on site is a great option to have no matter which design you choose. If that's something that you would like to have. And so yes, the answer is yes.
Amazing. Okay. And um, uh, if the homeowners get these plans, would they then take them to county as owner builder, or does the Foothill Catalog help manage that interface with the bureaucracy? I think you kind of answered this, but maybe slightly different question.
Yeah, so I think that's a piece of this that we're still figuring out, to be honest, is, what happens after the plan handoff. I think, we would definitely at the very least still, be a resource to kind of oversee going through the site-specific permitting and then into construction. But that's still something that we're figuring out on our end in terms of the process, the exact process after the plans are delivered.
Great. For a homeowner who had the typical 3-2 1,500 square foot house, would there be options to go bigger if the budget allowed?
Um, I would say yes, but I think that, that kind of it might trigger, if you're kind of getting out of that like to like, so to speak, in the eyes of the county, that may trigger further approvals needed. I think it would probably also trigger the reassessment. So those are all things to think about. But yeah, I think, you know, how we kind of envision this is really for the more like to like construction scenarios. So kind of, not having to worry about all those other things, but just knowing that, this is what you had before and, you can go a little bit bigger, and within certain setbacks. And so, you would then choose from those styles and sizes.
Okay, we have a question here. Our home was built in 2018 and stood a good 8 hours longer than other homes, but certain features required by the CA building code likely ultimately made it more flammable, namely attic vents in the gables. Also,
Mhm.
the fire sprinklers couldn't activate once there was no water left in town. Are we able to leverage your contacts with the county and state to get them to reconsider some of these weaknesses in their code?
I think it's definitely a conversation to have for sure. And yeah, if you'd like to reach out to us, we'll definitely keep it in mind as we move forward.
My wife just cheered yes in the background because we we went back and forth with the county about a single fire sprinkler in our ADU. And then we found out that when our neighbor's home that they had built within the last couple of years went down, that the sprinklers also did not go off because the water was shut off. So we hear you. Um, is the Foothill Catalog planning to work with the architectural planner designated by the county in rebuilding Altadena?
Um, I'm not sure about that one. I'm sorry. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I mean, the intent is that, we would work with the planners specified by the county for the area, for sure.
Great. How are you thinking with all the code upgrades that will be required and maintaining the unique characteristics of these older homes, like chimneys and fireplaces and large arched windows, for example? Our contractor and architect contacts friends are concerned this will be very costly and or not possible.
Hmm. That's a really good concern. I think that there definitely will need to be some back and forth with, what's allowed and what's affordable. And I think that's part of this design process is, working with those constraints, but still keeping in mind the overall, character and spirit, as kind of the core of everything. And so I don't have an exact answer to that other than, that'll be kind of like the North Star. And obviously there are going to be new constraints that we will be dealing with. But we'll do our best to still, keep the character, kind of as the important thing in all of this.
Great. Just a couple more questions left. Would you be able to be part of this if you plan on being your own GC on the home?
Um, I don't see why not. I think, yeah, definitely reach out to us. We'd love to, get your insight on, some of the home designs and, the efficiencies and where we can, really inject affordability, into the design. So yes, definitely, I mean, reach out to us if you're a GC, and would like to get involved in that way.
Awesome. Kat Rumford asks, can you explain the cons of not going with like for like, as in how much longer will your project take and how much more money would the permits cost, etc.?
In a typical rebuild, is that?
Uh, uh, can you explain the cons of not going with like for like,
Oh,
as
like
in,
for like. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
as in
Got it.
how much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not an expert at what the county, I know there's a lot of information coming out from them, but from my understanding, not going with like to like means that you are going to be subject to a lot more approval. Uh, like levels, different departments. There are certain departments that are going to be waived for a like to like a permit process. And basically, if you choose not to do like to like, that means you're doing new construction. And that means that you're going to be subject to a much more rigorous and lengthy approval process. And yeah, in terms of costs, I mean, it probably will mean more permits to pull and more time spent in approval and back and forth. So that's just something to consider. If uh, some people, will be able to do that, but a lot of people won't.
Great. And just a reminder, the Foothill Catalog, nonprofit. These are people in the community trying to help. I know there's the question about why would people do this? Because there's some good people in Altadena that just want to help build it back. Okay, Cynthia, thank you so much. We have three more questions. Um, can basements be added in a like-to-like or your design concepts?
Yeah, so basements are a good question because they're kind of site specific. Um, I think what will likely end up happening is that we will have the crawl space type basement and then the slab on grade type basement. And the crawl space type basement will allow for some type of, they're called California basements. You might be familiar. They were in a lot of older homes, but it's not a full-on basement, but an area for your furnace and things like that. But yeah, in terms of a full-on basement, that may be difficult because again, it is really site specific on which sites will allow that. But I'll make a note, and we'll explore it further.
A lot of like-for-like questions. Will adding a detached ADU destroy the like-for-like exemption on plan check and tax assessment?
So I think with ADUs, it's a little different because the state as a whole is really encouraging, density. And so I think the ADUs are generally exempt from those kind of um, new construction approvals and rules. That being said, definitely fact check me on that one. And another thing that we're working on is, providing a resource list that, it not necessarily just about the catalog, but about, rebuilding in general and some of these questions. So this is really valuable for me too, to kind of hear these questions so that we can kind of compile them into a resource that you guys can access at any time.
All right. Last question, Cynthia. You're doing a great job. Again, for those of you that are here, thank you so much for attending. I hope you're as excited about this as I am, and as Labid is, and Cynthia and Alex, and we appreciate y'all being here. Last question. Will your design be a like to like, if not the same square footage as the original house?
So, with like to like, I think you can go up to 10% of your original square footage. I think that's what the code says. So it doesn't have to be the exact square footage. There's a little bit of give and take. Same thing with, layout. It just has to generally be what was there before. And I think that's kind of what we're hearing from the county is as long as it's generally what was there before, you're not building a two-story home where there was a one-story home, where you're kind of keeping in the original setbacks that you had more or less, and staying within that, similar kind of 110% square footage. That will be what the county is generally looking for.
All right, that's it. Um, just again, want to thank everybody for being here. I've cried a lot in the last month, and stuff like this makes me feel happy and not like crying, And we're lucky enough to be in this little two-bedroom apartment in Glendale, but I can't wait until my 1-year-old isn't sleeping in the closet of our bedroom. Um, and I think that a project like this helps us get to that reality a whole lot sooner. Um, our hearts are out there with everybody who's going through it. I hope everybody's safe with these fucking mudslides. And yeah, Labid, Cynthia, any final words?
Uh, I'm excited that I now have a kitchen for the next 30 days. I've never thought I'd be so happy to say those words and share that with anybody else, but we have a kitchen for the next 30 days. But Cynthia, you, Alex, your team, um, and Cal, your dedication to the community. I posted not only Cynthia's email address, but Cal and mine. At the end of the day, we are here as a resource, as a bucket for you to dump stuff in, right? And we will fill your bucket back, right? I mean, it's that simple. I believe that's sort of like kindergarten terminology, but we fill buckets. So put in our bucket and we will put back in your bucket. Because the only way we're going to get through this is together. And so that's why we're here. And so lots of love. Cynthia, again, you and Alex, thank you. Cal, I mean, I didn't lose my home. You did. You're displaced. And the fact that you care so much about the community just speaks volumes about you and your character. And again, guys, our community, the Phoenix rising out of the ashes, that metaphor is real and
It's
miracles
the
happen
peacock.
every
It's
day.
the peacock rising from the ashes.
There it is. Yes.
That's a good one. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you guys. I hope this was valuable. And again, reach out anytime with any questions. Like I said earlier, community input is a huge, huge part of this, and we always want to make sure that what we're doing is rooted in your needs. So think about if you're interested in joining as kind of a community committee member. Um, and yeah, in the meantime, reach out anytime. Questions, we'll keep you guys posted on our progress as much as possible on our social media and on our website through newsletters. So yeah, we're always here for you too.
And
Cat, that's the tattoo idea.
yeah, go,
Peacock.
go to, go to foothillcatalog.org, sign up for the mailing list. Um, we didn't want to automatically put y'all's emails on there because God knows nobody needs another email if they don't want it. But sign up there. Um, we, we want to see people's faces in person. There's a lot
Yes,
more.
yes. So the hope is that soon we'll have an in-person event with hopefully some initial designs to share. So that's something to look out for in the near future.